Namaskaram to all of you. Namaskaram. Namaskaram. Anybody who attended any of my earlier classes? Quite a few. On which course? All of it. Any other course? What's that? Mind management. Okay. So this is communication skill class, right? So you are managing your mind now? Some extent. Personality got developed? Little bit. Okay. At the end of 6 days, you should have better communication skill. How many of you feel that you will have after 6 days? Half doubted, not totally. Fine. So few are not confident still. No, it will not improve. After 6 days, don't think that your communication skill will improve. You will only learn the techniques. Okay. This will give you some spark. It will not fire you out. It will give you a spark. Probably you should add some more fuel to that. Without practicing, communication skill cannot be improved. Without practicing, mind management is not possible. Without practicing, personality cannot be improved. So practicing is more important. Only this is a place where you will get some clues, some ways of doing it, some different classifications. It will help you to understand what is that you are lacking. Okay? And it will tell you how and what. If two things are known, you will be able to be successful in it. What and how. You should know what you want and how to get it. Okay? Anything in your life. If you know what you want and if you know how to get it, any problem can be solved. So there is only two ways. So these classes will give you what and how. What is communication and how to do that. Okay? It's you to move on those lines. It's not very easy. It cannot come by a week, it cannot come by few days. And I'm sure that you are good in communication. Different aspects of communication also will be discussed here. They will classify verbal, non-verbal, okay, importance of language. These are the general classes which people deal here. But being the first class, I'll try to give you a different direction on looking at communication skill. People will cover on language, people will cover on verbal, people will cover on non-verbal, and few people also will talk about the general patterns. What is the first communication you get in a day? Early day in the first. Good morning. Who tells you good morning? Who will tell you good morning in the morning? Nature says good morning to you. Wonderful. Give him a big clap. Nature says good morning. But how do you listen to that? Who wakes you up before that? If you are not awakened, you will not listen to that. So who wakes you up?
My Lord.
My Lord. So who calls you first?
My Lord.
God calls you. That's what is called the Brahma Muhurtam. Okay? But then what happens in the Brahma Muhurtam? You get up. Will you get up or will you wake up? You will wake up. You will not get up. And what do you do? If you are turning in this side, you will scroll once and then turn the other side and sleep peacefully. Every one of us are being called early morning, exactly 2 hours prior to the sunrise by God Himself. And then you don't care Him. That's what happens. The first call in the day starts with God and you don't care Him. So your communication failure starts from there. You don't respond to the first call from the God himself, and throughout the day you start calling God, and he will not respond you back. Okay? So what is to be done? There is a nice email came to me from someone, a letter from God. He says, all the time I was behind you, waiting for your call, but you never called me. And all the time when you called, I was absent from that place. So what happens to us? We don't respond to communication most of the time. That's what happens. In the class, the teacher goes on telling you, please listen, please listen. Many times. How many times the teacher tells you, please listen, because the teacher knows that none of you are listening. You are sitting and hearing but not listening. You understood the difference? You are sitting, you are hearing but not listening. Some people will listen to me in the class, the communications class, and at the end, after the class is over, what did I say? After the class is over, right? No? After the class is over, there will be few English people who are sitting sometime in the class, and they will say, sir, I have some serious things to tell you. What is that? After the class need not be said. After class is enough. The class is not required. He will find some mistake, And all the time sitting in the class, I am telling so many things, but nothing goes inside, because the first he found one grammatical mistake. And then what happens? He is thinking how to catch this man as he goes out of the class to tell him, you are wrong, your English is very bad. So I told him, this is not my mother tongue, this is my other tongue. So definitely this happens. Idea is not, and he happens to be a PhD in English, but I said, then why you are attending the communication skill? You have a wonderful language. No, I have no problem, I can talk to you, but I cannot come and tell you on the stage. What happens? I'll collapse. What is the problem in communication sometimes? Yeah. But what he has good language. And he can talk to me, no problem. He can talk to anybody. Arguing is possible, anything is possible. But he cannot communicate. What he can do?
Can just speak, but
Yeah, what is the difference between speaking and communication?
speaking that which you can understand, but other person cannot understand.
What do you say, technical word for that? Interaction between two people. What's it called? Is it communication? Interaction between two people are called communication? Conversation. You understood the difference? All of us are good in conversation, but we are not good in communication. Conversation, what is the difference between communication and conversation? I can talk about communication to you standing from here sequentially for an hour. During conversation, we talk about the communication, then we talk about the Hyderabad city, then we talk about politics, then we talk about something else, and then we will come back again to communication. Understood? You write an article on a topic. Tomorrow is Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's birthday. I was today writing an article on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, socialism. The social concept of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. I cannot write something else in the middle. Can I talk something else in the middle? No. If I am giving a lecture on Netaji, can I talk about Netaji for a little bit and then go and talk something else? I can talk about Vivekananda because he is related to him. I can talk about Aurobindo, he is related to him. I can talk about Ramakrishna and bring him inside because he learned many things from all these people. But I cannot talk about something else which is unrelated to the topic. In a communication skill, you have a structure. In a conversation, there is no structure. You can go and have a tea and then come back and continue. I cannot do that here. Understood? And it should flow. You cannot get stuck in the middle. So communication is a flow. It should be structured. At the end of an hour, you must be able to give a title to this class. You cannot tell that, oh, he told something, but don't know what does it mean, no, to all of us. What is the topic he gave? We don't know. When you give an article, you should have a title, correct, no? You cannot write an article and you decide what is the title. That's not possible. So a communication is meaningful, structured. It must convey a essence. All these are good. Conversation need not convey an essence. You can gradually develop. From something, it can become nothing at the end. But in communication, from nothing, it should come to something. Generally, conversation gets into, start with something, ends up with nothing. That's possible. You can tell, what did you converse? No, we enjoyed. That's all. Communication is not for enjoyment. It's to convey. Meaningful, creative, something new. The political communications are, the speakers will talk for hours together. At the end, it's so wonderful listening to them. At the end, you will understand what it that he spoke. He himself doesn't know what he spoke, then how can you understand? So this happens. It must be interesting. You must be able to catch people. Conversation is always interesting. Conversation is always interesting. Why? Because if the other person is not interested, you will change the topic. Right? Communication, you cannot do that. You must talk on a topic and you should continuously catch the attention of people. Not necessarily large audience, a small audience. I had 10,000 or 20,000 people as audience once. I also spoke for 6 hours for 3 people. But depends on the subject, interest people have, and you must structure it. Communication, when you talk about verbal, generally it is public speaking. It's not one-to-one. Generally people even use the word communication for one-to-one. That's why you get confused. But don't confuse. Communication skill is not all of us have got. Is there anybody who cannot talk to your neighbor? No. Any given topic, you can argue well. You can talk about the UN constitution to your neighbor, to your brother, to your sister, to mother, servant maid, anybody, no problem. But probably you cannot do your lecturers. Right, no? Probably you cannot answer the questions in an interview board. Because there you have to be structured. So some conversations becomes communication. When it has to be structured, question answer sort of a thing, when you are putting it to higher up, you should be very, very specific. So small note also will become a good communication. Letter to editor. My hobby when I came to Hyderabad was writing letters to Deccan Chronicle. Those days I used to get a lot of prizes. The best way to improve your communication is to write to. You can check yourself how good you are in communicating. It gives you a lot of money. 200 rupees they pay. Now they start paying CDs and all that. It's good. You can just email some letters. On email also they will accept. Take any issue on the ground, take something on the international issue and write to editors. It's a wonderful way of communicating, improving your writing skills. So communication, not necessarily verbal, vocal communication, it could be written communication. I used to attend classes like this in the 20 years back. And then what do I do next day? I write letter to editor. Telling that there is a class in Ramakrishna. So happened, not in Ramakrishna, those days Ramakrishna was not giving. I used to attend some Swamiji's classes and say that the class is so wonderful that this is what he explained. Letter to editor. It goes. When I learned life skill from somebody I wrote, there is a different life in the life skill classes. So it's a best way of communicating. So what happens today, whatever happens, you will forget tomorrow. Once you write it, you will remember forever. When you read, that is also communication to some extent, because it's a structure. The communicator communicates through writing and the reader gets it. Right? Then only it becomes communication. We write and somebody else reads. When we write, I am putting onto paper. That is not communication. It's not our. When somebody reads it, it becomes communication. And it should convey meaningful things to him. Whatever I mean must be understood by the person. How do you know whether he understood or she understood that? How do I know at the end of the class whatever I wanted to tell you follow? You must be able to reproduce it. Not in the same structure for 1 hour. Can you do it for 5 minutes? Then my job is done. If you cannot, this is a failure. So at the end of the class you will have it. Try. I'll call any one of you and then say that please submit afternoon. We'll see how good you are. So if you cannot reproduce, who is at failure? I am at failure. I am not communicating well. Second, you are not here. You can be here, but you are not here. You will be here, but you will be thinking of something else. Somebody talks about Tolstoy, you will be thinking about Chiranjeevi. Impossible. So what happens? Your presence of mind is essential in communication. How do you make it? Why in a movie, when you see movie, it's so thrilling, and the movie is able to communicate to you, it's able to catch you for 2.5 hours. Nobody tell in the middle, no, it's not interesting, I am getting out of the cinema theatre. You will sit totally. And what happens soon after the movie is over, if two people are seeing it together, you will discuss about the movie. Will you discuss something else soon after the movie is over? You will definitely discuss about the movie and you will say the first part was good, second part was bad and all that. Did any time after your class is over in the school or college, do you talk about the first part, mathematics master was wonderful and second part he was bad? All that? No. Why? Because it's not able to get into your heart. It's not into your heart. You are not able to. The class is not catching. And what happens in a movie? Every moment, you want to know what happens to hero, what happens to heroine. You are thrilled. We have got some eagerness to know what's happening next. Then only the movie becomes successful. Otherwise it's boring. And you will start guessing what's going to happen, what's going to happen. And you realize what you thought is not what happened. You realize that you are a fool. Still you are happy. Sometimes you realize, oh, I thought like this, happened like that. Right? When you have that sort of an attitude, you will be able to get contents totally into yours. Will you be able to do the same thing while reading newspaper? No, because you don't practice that style. But you can. It's very, very easy to learn how to read. Most of us doesn't know how to read. Most of us doesn't know how to read. You are reading one book from Vivekananda asking the methods of meditation. Just take the title, Methods of Meditation. Close the book. Don't read it further. What you should do? Take the book, open, title is known, Methods of Meditation. Close the book. You got some packets? What is the book there? Personality Development. Some textbook will be there, right? Then take Personality Development textbook, keep it aside and think what could be there. Nobody stops you, no? Because you heard this word personality development. You can guess what can be there. Nobody stops you. Just write one page on personality development by yourself. Not what you think, what the author could have been written or what he means by personality development. You can guess. Because you know Vivekananda and Ramakrishna Swamiji follows Vivekananda Ramakrishna. In his concept, what could be personality development? Just write it. Just think that for some time. Then read. Then you will realize what I know about personality development is different from what Swamiji knows. It becomes a realization in you, and you know that you don't know anything about personality development. This is not personality development, something else is personality development. You know what happens? That becomes thrilling for you. Any topic in the world, any subject on the world, you should have an attachment, you should be thrilling, realize something is going to happen at the end of the class, and the class becomes thrilling. Otherwise you have a problem all the time. See, when you wait for something else to happen, wait for a time to come, wait for something to come out, that sort of an eagerness should come, then your communication becomes so successful. Can you communicate in that style? Then you are successful. Can you accept communication in that style? Then you are successful. Then what do? You read, finish it. Then you read what you wrote in the beginning, and then you will realize there is a lot of things I have learned, and then write it again. This is what I know about communication skill. This is what I know about personality development. This is what I know about so and so, whatever you read. Let it be a subject in a class, let it be a language, anything which you read, you can guess what could be there. Anything in the world you can guess, because you are not from the heaven, you know what's happening around you. Newspaper reading also can be like that, because what's going to come tomorrow as the main news is known to you today. Because you are listening to the radio, you are listening to TV, something is known around, no? Then you know what's going to happen tomorrow. Then just see that who has written that. The report is from whom? There will be 2-3 papers. You just interestingly look at different papers every day. If you are interested in learning language, the best thing could be read your own mother tongue, Telugu newspaper, read the corresponding English newspaper. Read first Telugu newspaper, read the English newspaper. Have a comparison between both. You will enjoy. Day first day I was in Kerala, I had an auto rickshaw driver who told me that he reads India Today English magazine every week. And he don't understand the language. It's very tough. It's not a small normal language. Then I said, what do you do? He reads only sports column because he is interested in sports. He wanted to improve his English. This is the way he does. This is the way he does. What he does? He reads what is of his interest, he starts reading. And what he do? He also takes up the corresponding Malayalam magazine, read it once, and get into English, read it once. You will see a lot of comparisons will be there, and you will improve your language. And if you can, write it down by yourself. Make an essence after reading. When you are reading in your class text also, if you are reading one paragraph, write one sentence out of it. If you cannot, then the reading is useless. After reading one page, you must be able to write 2-3 sentences out of it. After reading a chapter, you must be able to write one paragraph out of it. If you cannot, reading the chapter is useless. Don't read further. And if you don't have practice of reading for a long time, reading is a good communication. That's why I'm emphasizing on reading communication. Don't read for more than half an hour, not more than that. Just read for half an hour. Take a rest in the middle. Go back again. Come back and sit and read. If you create a dictionary by yourself, whatever is not known to you the meaning, what you presume to be known, sometimes we think we know the meaning, but no, sometimes we know wrong meanings. Keep a dictionary yourself and start looking at dictionary. Create your own smaller dictionary where what is essential for you. In your life, up to 6 years, you must have learned more than 3,000 words. Up to 6 years. Some people will learn more than 6,000 words up to 6 years. Then next 10 years, that means when you learn up to 16 years, you will learn only 6,000 more words. What you learn in the first 6 years, in the next 10 years, you will learn only that much. That means 12,000 words will be in your dictionary when you are up to 16 years. Provided you have a good environment, good company who will listen to many people around. Not in a small village where you don't have got public. No, when you listen to TV, today it's much more. You are getting up to 12,000 and more words. But till end of your life, up to 60 years, you will get another 6,000 words only. So if you cannot improve your language by 16 years, then it's very difficult. But yes, if you try hard, probably you can improve it. And if your vocabulary is more than 24,000, 30,000 words, fantastic. You are the greatest person. Not more than that. And if you add more words, few words will go. Old words will go. And once you have got to relate to many topics, many different languages, then one language, if you know, other languages becomes very easy. See, once you know one South Indian language, I am a Kerala. That's in Malayalam, akkade, Telugu, Kannada, ange, Tamil, alli, all are same. No difference. Idhar, kudhar, that's all fact. All that simple, similar, no difference. So once you know one language, getting into another language is not a problem. Simple, little bit. If you know Kannada script, Telugu script is easy. Tamil is very easy because you have only very little alphabets. Ka, kha, ga, kha is only one ka. There is no 4 alphabets, only one. So very easy for you to learn languages. So language is not the problem. There are people who know fantastic language. But creativity has to be there. If you are not creative, nothing will work. You don't get ideas. Good language is there, but you don't get ideas. You have a nice knife with you, but you don't know how to cut. No? You have a spoon, but you don't know what to do with it. How to feed is not known. You should have good creativity. If you have good creativity, any tool can be used for multiple purposes. That's why people say that spoon can be used for what? Feeding. If you are creative, you can use it for opening the bottle. The dabba cover can be opened like this. You can also scratch it. You can also use for beating. You can also turn it and then lose the screw. So if you have language and good idea, you can use language for multiple purposes. But if you don't have creativity, language becomes useless. And sometimes you don't have to say few words where you don't have to say. That's why non-verbal communications are very, very effective sometimes. And effective becomes affective. You know that first E and A. Effective becomes affective. No meaning? Affective means it affects. Effective means it is effective. So effective becomes very effective. So you must be effective, and effective should catch to the brain. But we don't. Most of the things when we learn, we just analyze its structure, analyze its grammar, analyze its meaning. We also learn it, but we don't get it into our heart. A communications becomes effective only when you take it into your heart. That's why people say that I don't think that, or I never expected you will tell me like this. Why? Because when somebody tells, it gets into your heart. I cannot tolerate if you are telling like this. If somebody else tells, no problem. So communication means a lot when somebody talks to you. Some towel also can communicate things to you sometimes. Some look can communicate sometimes. Why? Because it means a lot from whom it comes and how it comes. You by heart so many things in this world. Generally we don't by heart, we vibrate it. By heart means you are getting into heart, correct no? By brain means what? It's a new word, you don't see in the dictionary. By brain means you take it into brain and then push it outside. All the subjects are like that only. When for examination what you do? You by brain it. If you by heart, it's good. Okay, if somebody tells you are by hearting, yes, I am doing it. Wonderful, very good. But no topics, no subjects you by heart it. Generally you by brain it. What happens soon after examination? This crash. Nothing will be there. Ask engineering college. How many of you are engineering college students? Many, general. Do you remember what you learned in your PUC classes? Finished. Because after PUC, it's not required. You know it's not required. Our brain is so wonderful. If you know it is required, it will keep. If you know that it's not required, it will wash it off after that. If you write half-yearly, quarterly examination, whatever you learn in chemistry, physics will be kept here because you know for final exam it is required. Once you are studying for final exam, you know after final exam it is not required. Next day after final examination, you take the same question paper, answer it again, you will not be able to answer in the same way as you answered in the previous day. Why? Because your brain cleans it. Our brain is so wonderful. We don't keep anything which is not required. And if you know it is required, you will keep it for a long time. If you can keep things in your heart, that means something. If it does not mean anything to you. All Indians are my brothers and sisters. How many times you must have taken this oath? When you walk on the street, there are so many brothers and sisters walking. But do you feel this is my brother, this is my sister? No. They are not Pakistanis, they are not Afghanistan people, they are not Iranis, they are not Western people, they are all our own brothers and sisters. Why you are not feeling? Because you have taken it in brain but not in heart. That means whatever you read for 1,000 times in your life have nothing communicated into you. That's why I said you hear it but you don't listen it. So if you want to understand, communication should reach into your heart. I am sure you will never forget me in your life. You know why? Because I am talking from my heart, I am trying to reach it into your heart. I am not talking from brain. I am not talking to your brain, I am talking to your heart. I am reaching into your mind. If somebody can reach into your mind, you will never forget them. That's why life has to be with instances. You will forget what I said, I am sure. The words you will forget, but you will not forget the essence of the class. You will not forget the idea which I wanted to convey to you. So for a communication, what is important? Not the words, but the ideas. The essence has to be there. So a communication should have an essence. It should be creative and it should not be something which you heard in the same style earlier. If you heard somewhere and the same thing repeats, what happens after some time? You will, okay, this I heard. So your brain will decide, I don't have to listen to this now. You will forget. I am very cautious because few people listened to my lecture earlier. She will be assessing how I spoke last time and how I am now. He will be thinking what I spoke during personality development today's class, is there something common? Because every one of us want to compare, analyze, criticize. When you listen to somebody, what do? You are not listening. You are trying to analyze, criticize, judge, compare. All that we will try to do. Evaluate. What all can be done, we will try to do, and we don't listen. That's why the teachers go on telling you in the class, please listen, don't analyze. Just take it inside as it is. If you start contradicting, you will not understand anything. If you start analyzing, you will not understand. You will think that his English is not very good. Then your mind goes only in that state. Whole essence will not be understood. You will be only thinking about the grammar, phonetics, vocabulary, the rhythm which I am using. All that you will start comparing. And when you read, you should have an attachment to what you are reading. When you listen, you should have an attachment to what you are listening. But generally, it's not that easy. We are all always prejudiced. You must be presentable. Either with emotions, good or bad, doesn't matter. You get attached emotionally, geographically. See, for example, when you read a newspaper, assume that I am from Kerala. When I read Indian Express, I am seeing a news. Caught fire. Shops caught fire. I will see, it's from Karnataka, I am not interested. If it's from Kerala, I will read next. Then I am seeing from where the report is. If it's from Malappuram, Kottayam, no problem. It's not my district. Then from Trichur, from Trichur, I was eager to know what happened, Next I will read further. 13 kilometers from Trichur town. He will not tell where it happened, The fire caught in so and so place. At the end I realized, it's my own hometown something happened, Then after reading I realized my own house got burned. So what happens? We get attached to the news, right? As it goes further, you get attached to the news. Because geographically we can get attached. Many parameters could be there where you can get attached. Assume you can get attached to anything in the world like that, in the same style, then your communication is very good, but you cannot. So where do you have to grow? You have to grow from your to our attachment. When you communicate, this is my subject. I'm sure if I'm talking mathematics, my basic subject is mathematics, PhD is in mathematics. If I talk on mathematics, this many concentration will not be there. Right? Because you will get categorized. I am not belong to mathematics person. Why should I listen to this? Because this is a common topic, you are able to absorb. So we take our stake based on the subject, based on religion, based on caste, based on region, based on language, based on many things. If you get prejudiced, the listening becomes very difficult. So one basic requirement for a good listener is he should not become prejudiced. Very, very difficult to practice it. You will always try to exaggerate or try to contract. If it is very, very interesting for you, you try to look at it very exaggerate, zoom in, look at magnified glass. And if it is not interesting to you, you will demagnify it and you will reduce its importance. The resolution will become bad. This happens to all of us. Whatever is not closer to you, we don't look at it. If it is closer to you, we look at it very closer. That happens. But Shankara says, your mind should be darpana samana, plain mirror. As it reads, you reflect. Because you don't know how it's going to affect you tomorrow. So you must be open-minded, absorbing anything which comes inside, analyze it, capture it and keep it. If it is required or not, it is a material. Try to find interest in anything around you. When I travel in the bus, 3 hours, somebody is sitting beside me, from one district to another district. I'll talk to him. What are you doing? Then he tells me this is agriculture. What is the product which you make? What is the cultivation you do? How do you get irrigation done? What fertilizer you use? From where do you get the seed? All the questions if I ask you, sometimes he asks me, you are also in agriculture business? Somebody does a prawns business. He was with me. I asked him, where do you get, how is the market, how much is kg, how long you are doing it? And he says, you are also planning to do the business? Because you talk to him in such a style that you are into that. When you get a musician beside, you talk to him on music. You know how much you can learn? Learning is not just from the book. Learning must be all along, wherever you travel, whomever you meet. What is that we do? Unnecessarily sit and think about somebody else. We can only think bad about somebody else, right now? Why to waste our time? And practice it in such a fashion, then you will know many things in this world. When you travel in the bus, assume you are traveling in the college bus every day morning, half an hour to reach from your house to college. How many people will discuss on the topic which you learned yesterday? Your colleague is sitting beside, both are engineering college students. Read something and tell him tomorrow what you read. Let he or she read something and come back to you tomorrow and tell what he read. Whatever you read, whatever you learn, whatever you do, you paraphrase to somebody else. Paraphrase. That's what's called paraphrase. Putting in your own words. Today what happened in the class? You go back home and tell somebody else what I said today. If it looks something interesting, something new, something different, you paraphrase this class and tell your relatives, tell your friends, tell your colleagues, tell your neighbors, then what happens? Who gets benefited? You get benefited. So when you have some idea, try to talk to many people, then you will develop yourself. Anything which you like, you try to spread it. Anything which you want to tell somebody, either in written or orally, try to talk to many people. Send emails to many people on an idea. Instead of just sending some rubbish things, write ideas. Then it becomes communication. Write about something very interestingly. People will look forward for your emails, right? People will look forward for discussing with you. Then conversation becomes real communication. So convert your conversation to communication, then you become a good communicator. Then you will realize, yes, I can also do that. And don't worry how others talks about you. I feel that I have done a class much better than what I did last time. Then I am improving. And some people will sit in the same class to know how I have improved on that. They have not improved anyway. They will assess how I have improved on that. Either you give me a good certificate or not is immaterial. Either somebody gives you a good certificate or not is immaterial. But you should feel, yes, I have done better than yesterday. That's improvement, right? No? Yes, I have improved better than yesterday. Then what do? Raise your hands and say, done well. If nobody taps you on the back, tap yourself and say that yes, I have done well. So, every day practice yourself. Talk to people on ideas. Ideas will come. It will start getting created inside. Because you are talking to somebody and somebody will add some more ideas. My professor used to tell, if you don't know music, talk about the music. The person who knows music will tell you this is not music. Then ask him what is music. He will teach you what is music. Then you can talk about music tomorrow. The best way. If you don't know something, try to talk about that. He will tell you this is not right. Okay, tell me what is right. No? This is the way you learn. But don't. Every day, open-minded. Nothing. This is not the end. This is not ultimate knowledge. What I am trying to say is not the ultimate knowledge. If you tell me, I will add. Open-minded. Correction. Always it's essential. And don't keep ego telling that I know everything. And if you know, you must be ready to say that I know this. This may be right or wrong. Who knows? So if somebody tells you you are wrong, doesn't mean you are bad. That's the biggest problem we have. We are scared. No courage to present our ideas to somebody. You can talk to your friends, but you are not able to talk on the stage. Why? One thing, because you don't have practice. Second thing, you are scared. Why you should scare? I am not going to see you tomorrow. You are not paying. Why should I worry about you? If you feel that I am bad, how does it matter to me? If my wife says I am bad, it matters to me. If my kids says I am bad, it matters to me. Right? If you tell me that I am bad, I know matter to me. It doesn't matter. So why should I worry about you? If I know you, we don't worry about them. Because at home, we can talk anything. Right? No? At home, all are non-people. We will not dress up well. We will not present well. Anything we can tell. If you don't know, again the same thing. So there are only two possibilities. Either I know you or you don't know. So both way you don't have to get worried, no? So why do you worry? So keep away your worries. Don't worry about how somebody else assesses you. You go for a job, you are worried whether you will get it or not. Yeah, there are only two chances. You get it or you don't get it, right? No? If you don't get it, doesn't mean you are bad. It means you are not fit for that job. Or the people who are sitting are not fit for assessing you. You are much better than that. Right? No? Then why do you worry? My boss says I am bad. How does it matter? I know he is bad. Therefore, he cannot assess my goodness. It doesn't mean I am bad throughout, right? No? Somebody else tells me that you are good. Fine, go behind them. Not necessary everybody will accept you. Then finished. You have a problem. Which job you will accept? Assume you are very good and for every job you are fit. What you will do? You have a big problem. You can only get into one job, right? You cannot do many jobs. You are a good husband. You cannot become husband of many people. You can become only one. You want to travel. Every bus says you get into. What you will do? You can only get into one bus. Right? So when you get into bus, many buses you are missing. Wonderful. No? So it doesn't matter. Consider that somebody judges you good or bad does not make you good or bad. Somebody tells you I am not able to understand you. Doesn't matter. It means they are not able to understand you. If I talk the same thing in Kannada, if you don't know Kannada, is it my failure or your failure? It is my failure because I am in a wrong place. But I am not failure if all of you are Kannadigas. So what you should do, at which place, where, how should be assessed, that's all. It doesn't mean that I am bad, only I am in a wrong place. Go somewhere else. You know that in Sanskrit there is a word called mlecham. Mlecham is understood as not good, but it is never means not good. It means you are not understood. Mlecha Bhasha means the language for Kannadiga, all other languages are Mlecha Bhashas. For Malayali, all other Bhasha is Mlecha Bhasha, except Malayalam, because he understands only that. But people realize that if anything is Mlecham, that's useless. Because people feel if I don't understand, anything is useless. So don't ever get into a conclusion that you are useless if you don't make a meaning to somebody else. It means only that they don't know. If somebody cannot communicate verbally, the other day I was with somebody who cannot talk. I can talk to them nicely with all the symbols, because my eldest brother cannot speak. So I will talk to them nicely with the symbols, So when you can understand their language, it becomes so easy. If you cannot understand their language, you are a failure. So when you make communication, realize to whom I am making. If I am talking to my wife or kids, they understand perfectly well what does it mean. For somebody else, when I write a letter, I have to give all introductions. If somebody is along with me, I don't have to give a large introduction. Just matter will be enough. Because they are known to us. So anytime when you communicate, understand that to whom we are communicating, what we are trying to communicate, and get into the crux of the problem or give an introduction as essentially it is required. Casual communications are not taken care of in communication classes. Casual communication, that's what conversation, arguments, all are not good communications. People will understand not in the right style, wrong style also. That's also possible, because you will realize only as you think but not the other person thinks. So that's wrong communications are possible. Sometimes you don't understand what the other person wanted you to understand. It's quite possible. Bad signals will go. He is trying to hide. And the last person is trying to hide all the time. Why you are hiding? Actually he was not hiding. The friend person who is sitting is doing like this, and whenever he changes, he said the other person